You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Uy, dismissal! Maybe you associate the school bell ringing with many other things by now, but you surely still remember when it used to be nothing else but a happy sound. Uwian na, time to go home. Ayun si mommy, o si tatay, o kung sino man susundo. Sakto, gutom na ako. Maybe we can get a quick snack? Soft drinks man lang, o chichirya? Sarap ng tunog ng dismissal. But now we're older, and among other things, we know that sound means something else for other people. It's always meant something else. Yung labasan sa eskwelahan, hindi lang mga bata ang nakaantabay dyan.
The strategy is clear. Children make the perfect customers. You start them young. You build a lifetime of brand loyalty. We know it comes at a profound cost to the health and well-being of our future generations. And in recent years, we've seen that the aggressive marketing of food that is high in salt, fat, and sugar has led to a concerning surge in the rates of overweight and obesity among children.
Ako po si Franco Luna, PumaPodcast, and you're listening to Teka Teka News. In this special episode, we'll talk about one way junk foods have been marketed to children in the Philippines. From your days in school to your own kids, now that it's their turn to cross that street. From the school gate to the sari-sari store. Another school day, and as routinely as it starts, another school day ends. Everything is so typical. You can still picture it, di ba?
How many kids do you see hang out in sari-sari stores? Lalo na kapag after school hours. And then what do you see? What do you see in the posters in the sari-sari store? You see mom and child drinking sugary chocolate milk. You see a happy child eating chips, cartoon characters with toys and chips, no?
This is Dr. Cristal Lakindanom, a pediatrician and child wellness advocate with the Philippine Society of Public Health Physicians.
So, on a marketing standpoint, parang they're successful because they're hitting their target market. But on a public health standpoint, there are consequences.
UNICEF says 74% of Filipino children aged 13 to 15 eat much less than the 3 servings of vegetables recommended for them daily. At the same time, nearly 40% of these young teens have at least one soft drink every day. Given its high sugar content, that's already 1 serving too many.
So I'm a pediatrician. I have a private practice in Metro Manila. So majority of my patients are still infectious diseases pa rin. So the typical fever, cough, colds, no? But we've been noticing like a steady rise in obesity-related non-communicable diseases, or what we call NCDs, no? Basically, these are those with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and heart disease. So it's also what we call metabolic syndrome, which is a cluster of these symptoms. Kumbaga yung mga high BP, cholesterol, even the we measure the abdominal girth. So we usually see these things nga sa adults, but even for children, we see it already steadily increasing.
According to the 2019 Expanded National Nutrition Survey by the DOST's Food and Nutrition Research Institute, nearly 1 in 10 children from 5 to 19 years old are overweight.
Yeah, basically when you get these kinds of patients with increase in abdominal girth, high BP, etc., then of course you have to dig deeper on their history, specifically their nutritional history. And in urban areas, talagang very very high in processed foods, junk foods, in fast foods. It's a conversation that we really have to have with the parents.
It's also a conversation and a lesson that's being taught in schools. You had them in your classes for health. Tinuturo pa rin yan sa mga bata. But for every time teacher says something about nutrition, Filipino children are bombarded with hundreds of signals and messages every single day. We're not even talking about TV or the internet or social media and TikTok. Wala namang social media nung grade school ka. But this was true even when you were growing up. According to one case study from public interest law group ImagineLaw, around 85% of ads around schools within a 500-meter radius of 30 primary schools in Metro Manila are for unhealthy foods, high sodium, high sugar snacks, and drinks. Sa labas ng schools pa lang yan.
Sponsored ng mga branded junk foods yung kanilang sari-sari store, tawag nito, karatula, di ba?
Karatula.
Kasama na talaga yan. Actually, yung mga baon nila, hindi nila ginagastos lahat yan sa school. Talagang may naka-reserve sila para may bibilin sila doon sa labas.
Yan si Sir Wilvin Infante, teacher ng Technology and Livelihood Education sa Pedro Guevara Elementary sa Maynila. He says he's seen over the years how his students' diets have changed, from the humble Nutribun to chippy.
May mga pupils din kami dito na sobra-sobra ang baon. Ay makikita mo yung mga branded ang iniinom niyan. Talo pa nga si teacher kung uminom. Yes, oo. Kasi dito sa paligid namin may mga branded na rin ng mga na mga sweetened drinks. Gusto nila yan, gusto nila, addicted na sila sa sweets.
Coupled with the technology and toys of the day, the fewer hours for actual physical exercise, and the same access you had for junk food makes for an even more toxic lifestyle for today's school children.
The fact na ang bata natin, 6 hours lang naman, maximum of 6 hours sa school. Mas mahaba ang time nila sa bahay, kaya nagagawa nila kung anong gusto nila. Ang play ng mga bata ngayon, hindi na physical play. Diba? Mga gadgets na nilalaro nila, so yung pagpapawis nila, wala na. So, yung obesity nga, lalabas yun. Oo, yung hindi nila mailalabas yun as energy. Kasi nga, ang daliri lang gumagana sa kanila eh.
At sa bawat kanto ng buhay sa Pilipinas, andyan ang Sari-Sari Store. Isang institusyon, iconic, parte na ng buhay at pagiging Pilipino. A lifeline in emergencies, small and big. And a major frontline in the battle for every Filipino child's attention.
Parang free advertising. Kinakabit talaga nila yan, tapos lalagyan kung sino may-ari ng store. Yan. Yan, ang laki-laki sa kanto, di ba? Parang...
Ano yung usapan dun? Free advertising yan, pero ano yung exchange dun?
Wala.
So, binibigyan kami ng free tarp.
Oh, parang gano'n, free. Free lang siya. At saka, magbibigay sila ng siguro, may ilang pirasong product nila. Ganun yung kapalit per month.
Yan si Grace Barbado, nanay ng 5 estudyante sa General Rojas Elementary School sa Quezon City. Tindera din siya malapit sa school. Aling Grace sells siomai, fish balls, and hot dogs.
Bungad na sa kanila yung mga ganyan. Di, sisiputahan talaga sila. Kasi nagtatakam na sila eh.
And for Nanay Grace, it's a living. But as a mother, she acknowledges that there's a balancing act for everyone with a child. On one hand, she says it's up to parents to keep their kids eating right. On the other, she acknowledges, can they really help or resist how their tastes and preferences are shaped? Right next to Grace's stall is a sari-sari store. Front, center, dominating the sari-sari store window are toys and candy. May ice cream freezer pa nga sa harap. School children stop by there before and after their classes.
Ayun lang. Kasi yun din ang mas karamihan ng binibili. Yun doon nakasalalay din ng negosyo eh. Mga candies eh. Pero junk food, wala naman. Candies lang talaga at saka mga school supplies lang naman dito. May mga customer ako dito, mga bata, taba. Kain ng kain, walang kabusugan.
You can't blame entrepreneurs for meeting demand. But health advocates say the real question is, what is really behind that demand? Is it human nature? Or a natural craving by kids, and kids being kids? Or could it be something else? When you see around schools and around sari-sari stores surrounding schools, cartoon characters, mascots, mommies, saka child actors, it's all hawking junk. And the point is, the craving not only comes from somewhere, it's powerfully and most effectively conditioned by some groups.
So, ang bottom line nyo, nasa magulang yan.
Nasa magulang. Nasa magulang talaga yan. Kung ayaw mo pakainin ng mga anak mo, huwag mo pakainin ng candy kasi kung minsan sumasakit ang ngipin o nasisira ang ngipin. Ay, disiplinahin mo yung anak mo. Hindi yung nagbebenta.
Yan si Lot Santos. Sari-sari store owner siya sa QC malapit sa General Rojas Elementary School. When I say malapit, I mean literally paglabas mo ng gate ng paaralan. Yung tindahan niya, kita mo agad. The store window is adorned with, alam mo na, mostly candy. If not sugary items themselves, signs for ice cream. And Lot argues that it's ultimately the parents who determine what their children ask for, since they have full control over what they buy for them. But at the same time, he admits, even the most health-conscious and protective parents too are in a losing proposition.
Ang target talaga rito mga bata, hindi matanda. From Monday to Friday, pag kami pasok. Pag walang pasok, wala din. Sarado rin.
I asked Lot, yung mga banderitas, yung mga posters, yung mga tarps all around his establishment, saan po galing lahat ng yan?
O yung shakies na yan.
Ay, yung shaky.
Mga shakies at saka Jollibee lang. Tapos nagbibigay po sila ng konting sa amin, buwan-buwan, gano'n. Parang bang bayad na hindi in kind. O hindi pera, in kind lang. Kung ano ang kanilang produkto, yun ang bibigyan nila sa amin isang ganun. Okay na rin yun, di ba?
So ano po yung usapan nyo?
Ganun lang.
Ganun lang.
Oo.
So magbibigay sila ng in-kind, tapos ihahang nyo dito para makita. Parang free advertising kumbaga.
Advertising yan. Advertising nila yan.
This much you already know. Groceries and supermarkets aren't just a retail business. They're into real estate. Food manufacturers and producers of fast-moving consumer goods, or FMCGs, pay real good money for the most prime of properties. They pay for eye-level shelves, for displays at the very entrance and exit of the grocery. They pay for the ends of every aisle. And that's why candies and chocolates are positioned at the checkout counter, where they're at eye level with kids who can ask mommy for one more item, even as she's already paying. What you never really thought about is how the humble and beloved Sari-sari store, that symbol of genuine and sincere Filipino small entrepreneurship, is also a front for that exact same real estate war. We all love our suking tindahans, but we've never really looked at them as tools for our own vulnerabilities and exploitation.
Talagang nothing beats advertising in the point of sale. Ang communication mo kasi talagang may impact pag nakita nung consumer talaga na nandun ka. Out of sight, out of mind. So, kung wala kang nilagay na poster, hindi nila alam na meron kang doon. Meron kang produkto doon.
This is Jingo Fermin, a career salesman with decades of experience in the industry. He's currently an independent consultant and business owner at Inicio Management Consultancy. Jingo has sold everything from shampoo to ice cream to beer, and in his early years as a sales rep for FMCG giant Procter & Gamble, his daily routine included engaging with retailers and, yes, small sari-sari stores around his assigned province.
So, number one is the convenience. No? Mabilis Paglabas mo, nandiyan na kagad. So, hindi ka nalalayo para bumili ng paninda kung ano kailangan mo. Kasi minsan, kailangan mo lang naman isang sibuyas, siguro isang lapad ng mantika. Ganun mabilis mabilis lang.
As with land, Jingo remembers when space for things like tarps and posters was plentiful. And even better, it used to be free for all.
So, nung unang panahon, unang panahon meaning 90s, no? Mga ganun, hindi mo kailangan magbayad ng space. So, kabit ka lang ng kabit, basta pumayag yung may-ari ng tindahan, kabit ka lang ng kabit. Pero nung mga bandang panahon na yan, may isang malaking company na sabi niya, siyempre naglalaban kayo sa space, di ba? Gusto ko maglagay din, pero babayaran kita. So, pumayag yung sari-sari stores, no? So, I think the practice until now is still there. May mga sari-sari stores na kung gusto mo mag-display, humihingi sila ng allowance. So, yun lang yung medyo naging evil effects nitong labanan na to. It was actually a good friendly competition, no, between us and like our direct competitor Unilever or Colgate, no. Naglalaban lang kami talaga sa sa frontage So pag nakuha ko yung kalahati, kukunin niya yung kalahati, ganyan. Tapos kung minsan siyempre sisingit si Colgate, gusto niya maglagay ng konti. So, doon siya sa gilid, ganyan. Ang nagiging masama, yung yung tinatawag nilang tastasan. Yung tatastasin yung mo, yung display mo. Oo. Kasi nakita niya, marami kang kinabit, di ba? Sabihin niya doon sa may-ari, "Sir, pwede ba? Kasi ang daming kinabit ni Procter & Gamble 75% na yung kanya. Pwede ba natin bawasan ng 25% para kabit naman natin yung atin?"
Jingo is happy, nostalgic even, recalling his war exploits as a sales rep. Many battles came down to roads and streets, for which he says he always had his own hammer and nails.
So dun sa taas na taas, merong kahoy na portion. So sabi ko dun sa tindahan, "Sir, kung okay lang po sa inyo maglalagay lang po ako ng hanger." Sabi niya, "Saan mo ikakabit dyan?" "Ako na po ang bahala." So humiram lang ako ng hagdan sa kanya. Tapos dun sa likod ng kotse ko, meron akong martilyo tsaka pako. Tapos pinako ko talagang ganun. Tapos tsaka ko sinabitan.
Lot says that for sari-sari stores, nothing is more precious property than the bintana. The store window is the sari-sari store. The products they choose to display up front and the way they position them, all of it is crafted to sell. And it can be up to the highest bidders what they put there.
Kasi madaming mga bata Walang ginawa kundi candy na candy. Yan, at least yung 500 din nakukuha naman namin kahit.
Kaya po siguro nasa harap talaga yung candy.
Oo, kaya nandito lahat mga candy sa mga bata. Yan lang ng mga bata
As a senior consultant now, Jingo acknowledges that the inundation and targeting of kids is by design.
The battle for merchandising kasi also came to a point where you had to use a lot of colorful materials, no? Pati banderitas, kinakabitan namin yung tindahan para to make it more festive, no? So even the kids, when they see it, they would love to go to the sari-sari store and buy kasi nga nakita nila maganda, colorful and everything. Then, yun na nga, placing the available here. Posters also help a lot in providing recall and awareness for the community.
Tricks of trade for some is cause for concern for many others. The World Health Organization says that, among other things, soft drinks are daily habits for nearly half of minors in the Philippines. Even Grace, a sari-sari store owner, frets that the flood of advertisements her children pass by on a daily basis has fundamentally changed their relationship with food. This, even as she cannot imagine giving up the perks dangled before her as a small-scale entrepreneur.
Marami dyan. Lalo na, pinakamarami talaga soft drinks Yung mga ice cream naman, sabagay, itong Selecta kasi, 100 meters din talaga kapag magtitinda ka sa isang hindi naman pumapayag ang Selecta na dyan lang sa tabi. Gusto nila malayo, 100 meters ang kasi ayaw nila mag-competent yung dalawang negosyo. Kaya gano'n. Ito, Selecta, doon na sa dulo, sa palengke na ng
Yung mga tarp dito, bigay talaga ng kumpanya?
I recall when I was covering 7-Eleven, when we will do our planning with the 7-Eleven merchandising heads, ganun ang sinasabi nila, "Sir, magbigay ka naman ng konting promo dito kasi itong 7-Eleven branch na to malapit sa school."
Break muna tayo. But when we return, we'll talk about arguments and proposals for regulating the sale and promotion of junk foods, not only in but around schools, and why that's easier said than done.
Time Senator Lito Lapid filed a resolution seeking to ban junk food and sugary drinks inside and within 100 meters of public or private schools. The lawmaker explained that Senate Resolution number 1231 aims to promote a healthy diet and good eating habits among students. He further said that there are studies that show that students who do not get proper nutrition have a hard time focusing and often hampers learning, resulting in low grades.
Senator Lito Lapid's Senate Bill 1231 was filed in September 2022. It's still pending. Department of Health OIC Division Chief Dr. Armand Arguelles says this remains the plain and bitter reality.
We don't have any policy yet that regulates marketing at point of sale. It's very difficult and it's for everyone to given our culture of sari-sari store, especially is to communism.
While there is no such law, there is actually a Department of Education order banning soft drinks and junk foods inside schools. Teacher Wilvin Infante says this is complemented by efforts to promote healthy diets and lifestyles.
Sa amin sa school kasi meron kami tinatawag na WINS program. Tinuturuan namin ng mga bata sa mga different aspects ng health katulad ng personal hygiene, dental hygiene. Kasama na rin dun yung pagkain nila ng masustansya. Ini-emphasize namin sa kanila yung proper hand washing at saka toothbrushing. Ang problema nga lang, pagdating sa bahay, hindi na nila napapractice yun.
But it's as children exit the school premises, literally as soon as they leave the gates, that there are no controls. And students are helpless against the marketing assault even before they could cross any street.
We are very aware that this purpose advertisements like mga posters, yung mga signages sa stores, they influence the behaviors that we have, the choices of our community members. This is marketing and this inadvertently affects your choices.
Imelda Tubao is a school nurse assigned by DepEd to 4 public elementary schools in Manila. She says it's obvious that parents and children are vulnerable to the marketing.
Kung overweight and obese, ang overweight natin is 4.72%. So, ang obese natin is 3%. So, more or less, 7%. Mas marami pa rin tayong mga severely wasted at wasted. Ibig sabihin, malnourished.
The thesis of health and consumer advocates is simple. If ubiquitous marketing raises demand, then clamping down on marketing should drive down consumption of sugary drinks and salty snacks, especially among children. In the same vein, they insist that as high sodium and high sugar consumption have contributed to a rise in obesity, cancer, kidney disease, hypertension, and type 2 diabetes, even among children, curbing that appetite should also bring down public costs for dealing with these problems. When you reduce exposure, you reduce consumption down the line. And at the level of our barangays, at the level of schools, that starts with the humble sari-sari store.
So children are now growing up to be deliberately influenced by enticing messages in social media, television, and school marketing, street boards, and outside of the schools, even our homes, hindi safe yung children natin from targeted marketing like this. So children are subjected to an unprecedented barrage of messages enticing them to consume food with yung type na ads that is specially directed toward them. Makulay, may influencer, may celebrity, cartoon, or someone they identify with.
May mga bata, paglabas talaga, hindi mo makontrol yan. Bibili, may sobrang pera yan. Bibili yan dyan nearby. Which is, hindi unsafe yung food. Kasi dito may sanitary permit. Chine-check yung mga canteen personnel dito. Yung mga may health certificate sila. Doon hindi natin masisigurado safety ng food.
There are countries that have placed strong regulations against food marketing blatantly targeting children. In Chile, for example, the 2016 marketing law's prohibition was applied to packaging marketing for those below 14 years old. There is now evidence that these marketing restrictions have worked in reducing exposure to food advertising, consumption of high-sugar beverages, while supposedly having minimal impact on jobs. And attorney Ana Bueno of ImagineLaw says that the Philippines does have experience and precedent when it comes to restricting marketing and sales access to minors. That also means we know where the resistance can come from. And no, we're not talking about small sari-sari store owners worried about their sales.
But one of the biggest challenges, maybe an invisible challenge na hindi natin madalas nakikita, is yung industry interference sa tinatawag natin, no? Or the interference in policy making. So, Doon challenge na ito from the tobacco industry in the 1970s in big industries like the food industry. Hindi natin makakaila, no?
It's a grave comparison. The tobacco industry's lobby against any kind of marketing restriction dragged out actual implementation of policies for decades. Private industry will not easily cede already fruitful ground. And Education Assistant Secretary Dexter Galban says as surely as education and health advocates will fight for minors, so too will those who already have them in their grasp.
And one of the major considerations here is something that we also learned in our campaigns against smoking and vaping, wherein young people are always the prime customer or target of such companies. Why? Because they provide them with the longest possible customer to company relationship.
Right.
And once they are able to hook them into probably loving their product, investing in their brand identity, purchasing it as part of habit, then they have a customer for life.
Right.
And that's why they always target young people in general because they can become lifelong clientele.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka News. Muli ako po si Franco Luna, PumaPodcast. This episode was edited by Pidoy Blanco. Our Teka Teka News executive producer is Jill Caro, and our senior editor is Robbie Alampay. This episode was produced with support from ImagineLaw and its Bawas Patalastas Media Fellowship. If you found this episode useful or interesting, share it with a friend. Help Teka Teka News reach more people and help us keep the show going. Maraming salamat po.